Comparison. Comparison or comparing is the act of evaluating two or more things by determining the relevant characteristics of each thing to be compared, and then determining which characteristics of each are similar to the other, which are different, and to what degree. Hello and yay! I'm Lihle and you're watching Chess with me. So today I'm going to talk about the dangers of comparison. As you heard the definition, what is the whole thing about comparison? I think it's problematic for us in this day and age, in this era. Depending on who's comparing and the reasons why they're doing a comparison, I think that's where everything lies down. We could use it in work, places, or environments where we're trying to evaluate and find distinct characteristics between varied products or compare between competitors, whatever. But then English just reminded me that you can't define a word by its word. So you can't say comparison is to compare. One of the things that we need to remember, and I'm actually reflecting, one of the things that we need to remember about this definition is two things. That is the act of evaluating two or more things and determining the relevant characteristics of each thing that's being compared. So what is relevant? What is the point of comparison? There's no point in you comparing a car and a plane because duh. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Because the other thing flies, like, there's no point. It's not in the same level. It's not in the same space, like, and then determining the relevant characteristics of each thing to be compared, and then determining which characteristics of each are similar. Similar? Obviously, you can't compare. People do, but there's no point. My point is that there's no point in comparing plane and a car. But comparing two models of a car, maybe luxury cars, you could compare a Rolls Royce to a Bentley. The dangers of comparison. Comparison is a thing that happens without even us being consciously aware that we're doing it. Something that we do and extend to other people where we're comparing. And this thing is a problem, especially how I've seen it, that I know that there's places where it's allowed and it's supposed to happen, like in workplaces where we use it as an evaluation strategy, or to see who's performing better and how can other people be encouraged or be prepared to also perform at the level where there's a better person. With a comparison that you've been here for how many years, you're supposed to be at this point be able to gradually assimilate or execute certain duties with school, comparing stuff like that. But the thing is that there's some sorts of comparison that are actually meant to create or strengthen you, that are necessary for your life, that are just important and good, and they can make you see certain flaws that you may have, and some things that you can improve on when we start to compare, because we're looking at relevant characteristics, remember, and find out the similarities in those characteristics that are relevant that we need to compare on, and find out what's different and to what degree. And also remember, I said, adding my own side, is that depending on what your purpose is in that. The reason why I did this video is that I'm so annoyed about something that I remember that people did that was not necessary, but I'm just glad that I came out of it. I had a thought, actually, because I recently watched a very old movie, not very old, old movie by, what's the name of the movie? Bring It On, the cheerleaders movie, and that's Beyonce's sister, and it's Solange. I hate the fact that I used to watch Nigerian movies and they call it Solange, so I'm not sure which is the proper at this point, unless you're the grammar police and stuff. But Solange, whatever, Beyonce's little sister. So I remember there's a period when she started coming out with her music where people were constantly comparing her that, Beyonce's better. Like, who asked you? What is your problem? What is the point of bringing that? Are we trying to compete with something? So she came up with, I especially loved her music. Baby, I know that you do that with all the girls. Know that I'm fragile. Ooh, 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 ooh. Baby, don't blow it away. Okay, okay, first of all, I'm not trying to sing the whole song because I'm just going to betray myself with the lyrics and stuff, because I didn't do research about this, but I just did a comparison thing where I wanted to talk about her specifically, that she started a music career, and there's also a constant comparison that, oh, Beyonce's better, oh, you have a kid and you're younger, like, what's your problem? Like, people always in their business. So I just feel like it's a very great threat, it's a very great temptation for parents to compare children when they, well, I'm not saying their parents compared them, but there's instances where even your parents are doing the most to let you flourish as a child and as a person, but in the environment or people around you just always compare you, that, oh, your sister's better or what. And personally for me, people used to compare me with my older sister a lot. And one of the great astounding things when you see us is that we apparently look alike. So most people think we're twins, but we're not. But one of the distinct features that you're going to see when you look at me and Lihle and Lihle, so is that she is much lighter skinned than I am. We're both black, but I'm darker than she is. So people always brought that up, like, you're not the same. The only difference is that she's dark. Oh, but you're darker. And I'm like, what's the point? Who asked you? What's the, like, what are you trying to achieve here? And people always did a comparison about, whoa, you are so talkative, your sister's so kind and perfect. I didn't even care about that fact because I enjoy speaking. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's who I am. And there's always these things that people would just bring up. And I remember one time when I was in high school, we were doing a science project, like their partners and stuff, whatever. And this boy, out of nowhere, I think we had an argument about about how to do the work. Like, out of nowhere, he said, I don't know how the conversation about me and my sister started, because we were in the same grade but different classes, like AB, like a triple stream school, like ABC. So this boy said, I don't know how really we got to the conversation. Like, I'm really trying to, like, remember how we got to the conversation. And he was like, first of all, your sister's more prettier than you. Okay, what does science have to do, like beakers and Bunsen burners, what do they have to do with anything comparing me and my sister, or whether we're ugly or beautiful? And my question is, first of all, for people to determine, I'm not doing this video about my sister necessarily, but what is the purpose of determining if someone is pretty big? Because she's lighter skinned, because I'm darker, and we are having a genuine argument about something specific, and you're trying to bring out something that has nothing to do with anything really. So I'm not really triggered about something that happened recently, but I'm just thinking out loud that I had a great conversations about when people are comparing their kids, oh, this one is better, this one is, and I felt like it's not necessary, it's not important. Of course, it depends on what the comparison is for, but if you're trying to break people down and trying to break them apart, there's no point in you bringing out those differences, because first of all, like, like, where's your business up in there? Like, okay. So the dangers of comparison. The dangers of comparison is that if without a purpose, a genuine purpose, you might find yourself doing more harm than good. Number one. Number two, the dangers of the dangers of comparison is that comparison assumes that we all want the same thing. So you could be comparing me, a 23-year-old who's graduated already and trying to build a career, which I'm not quite sure where it's going, but you could compare me to someone who's already 23 and they married with a kid or one in the way, and you could, like, first of all, who says we want the same thing? I do probably want that someday in the future, but it's not something that I need right now. So you assume that we all want the same thing, or I could genuinely not even want it in the first place. So you're comparing, like you saying, apparently we're supposed to be at the level where we want the same thing. The dangers of comparison is that it makes people think that we want the same thing. And the comparison between me and my sister studied architecture, I studied psychology. The danger of you comparing that siblings, oh, why didn't you do that? What's the point of you asking me that stupid question? Architecture, psychology, totally different, because we don't want the same thing. I did it because that's what I wanted. She did it because that's what she wanted to do. So it assumes that we all want the same thing. And the other danger of comparison is that comparison has no clear criteria on what the goal may always be, and it might not always evaluate the same thing. And in as much as we may want to seem like or go through the process of giving it a criteria that rather than characteristics we're looking for in our comparison spectrum, whatever that we're trying to do, the reality is, in as much as we want to be objective as we can, there's always going to be subjectivity. I argue, and I still do believe in this, that even science that assumes to be an objective field, I do believe that depending on who's looking, who's analyzing data in research or running the program with Eva some way, I do believe that some part of it will go to a subjective field. So that's why we need to have an evaluating strategy to limit as much as we possibly can any forms of bias, because bias will always be there, subjectivity will always be there, even when we're trying to be objective. So the dangers of comparison are those, and I feel like we need to be more I don't know, I don't have the vocabulary for this, so I'm just saying that we should be more lenient when we meet people. And especially this conversation I had with actually a person like 2 days ago, like this person is going on about the worry about how they're raising their kids, blah, blah, because this kid is better. Like, my triggering, I think maybe started there because I just feel like I don't deserve to scrutinize this person's point of view or like break them down, because I mean, as a parent, it's your role. Like, you really are genuinely worried about this one is not picking up or learning abilities and stuff. You can try to help them, but the thing is, even if we're raised in the same family, we don't always want the same thing. Like, I'll go back to the second danger of comparison. It assumes that we all want the same thing, and it assumes that we're all the same people. We're not the same people, so there's no point in comparing. This one is better based, like I'm just triggered. So we all don't want the same thing. Number one. That's number two. What was the first one? Yeah, the criteria that we use is always subjective in the first place. So we may love and embrace each other. I remember the song by CC Wine and celebrate all our differences instead of building these lasting fences. Once in the heart, masters all. What matters most of all, whatever. I forgot to mention or like expand on that comparison can be a bad thing, or it can do more danger or harm than good. It's a danger already in that when you're being constantly compared, you have the option of seeing what you can improve on, or it might actually be bad. It may break out or turn into enmity, where you hate the people or the person that you're being compared to, where you're not even seeing, especially when you genuinely cannot see the purpose of why we're being compared in the first place. So one of those things is that maybe with siblings, I maybe cannot highlight any specific thing because I do not hate my sister at all, but it may just make you like I don't know, it can create hatred among people when you're just constantly being compared to somebody. So I think that's the bad part about it. Bye, have a lovely rest of